Welcome back, Geordies. Today we're going to have a little chat through last night's game, some of the positives, some of the takeaways, and where we feel this leaves us in the transfer window, with a couple of links coming out today or over the last couple of days. And finally, the hope is back at Newcastle. Not quite the hope we wanted, in the form of Craig Hope. I'm going to show you one of the posts he put up before the Newcastle game yesterday and explain again why I feel this media narrative is starting to rumble around Matthias Jaissle and how we set to build him up to tear him down. But if you're new around here, I'm Adam. This is Two for Joy. Get down there, like, hype, subscribe, do all the good things. And otherwise, let's get into it. So we'll start off with Craig Hope, the messiah of all journalism. Newcastle have lost more than a midfielder in Bruno Guimaraes. He was the driving force on the pitch and the emotional leader off of it. He was a unique footballer as I've come across. Because of that, he's irreplaceable. He gave 4.5 years of incredible effort and quality to this club. Given that, he deserved the chance to move on, even if it leaves Newcastle infinitely weaker. The challenge now is to find a way to win matches without him. And also ask why he wanted to go. Newcastle 2.0 needs to confront some of the reasons why 1.0 has come to an end. 1.0 has finally come to an end, I would say, because you went on holiday, Craig, and there was no one to protect Eddie in his final hours. But realistically, the media narrative around Matias Yisler needs to stop now. Like, the mainstream media will jump on this bandwagon of comparing him to Eddie Howe. And what they're going to do is a direct comparison at the start of this season and say, well, look what Eddie did last season. I tell you now, if Matias Jaissle goes through this season and doesn't get 17 defeats, he's done a much better job than Eddie Howe. Because you're right, he has been left with an infinitely weaker Newcastle. But he's also an infinitely more tactical and nuanced manager when it comes to developing young players, playing through different tactical styles and working to the strength of the squad that he has in front of him. You can see that in only one game last night, the amount of youngsters that got appearances in this game. And I'll bring it back to Henry Johnson coming on at the back. Realistically, there is no way Eddie Howe brings in a player that's just signed his first professional contract, puts him on the bench and brings him on for a debut appearance in his first week at the football club on a professional contract. Is something I love to see. Matthias Jaissle, I am a huge fan of how he's going to take us forward. But where I want to move on to following these, Michael Dawson for Sky Sports coming out and saying Eddie Howe leaving is the biggest downfall for Newcastle this season. It will be the thing that causes Newcastle to come undone, and he doesn't believe that Newcastle will finish anywhere near 12th this season. And I'm hoping you're right, Michael. I'm hoping we're way above 12th. But to write off a new manager with no background knowledge is absolutely preposterous in typical Sky Sports fashion. But moving on to the transfer news, and obviously I'm sure all of you have seen these links to Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg. 32 appearances last season. He's 31 years old. He started 30 games, 85 minutes a match on average. Team of the week 5 times. And I've got to say, when you compare his stats to Bruno, it's really interesting. I believe it's around 15 million euros. The fee being discussed. I wasn't blown away with the idea to start with, but actually, after watching the deep dive by Antonio Mango, it does start to make a little bit of sense. And when you look at his tactical or his defensive actions, he can do a job here. He's a seasoned professional. He's got experience. He's a leader. And I feel like he can come in for a good fee of around £13 million. 10 to 13, I feel this could be a useful addition. And I feel that there's a few players in here that we're hanging on to that realistically need to be out the door. And we're all aware, your Joe Willocks, your Jacob Murphys, your Nick Popes. But Hojbjerg and I'll put the stats up, Hojbjerg as a player, he'll offer us something very different. And with the amount of young players in this team, we do need some experience. We do need some leadership. Even if he's not playing every game, just having him there as a kind of a Kieran Trippier, kind of someone who can come in and have an impact or shut games down when we need to shut them down. Realistically, I'm not mad about this signing, but I'm also not terribly afraid of Newcastle spending a relatively low fee and bringing in a seasoned professional who could up the levels of this squad. You know, like I said, it's raise the floor, not raise the ceiling. And this is a raise the floor signing. But moving on to the goals and the way he progressively moves forward, he's not the most creative player, but he also offers a bit. He offers a bit more than I thought. And realistically, having 3 expected goals last season in La Liga, in Ligue 1, and coming out with 4 goals is not bad. He's performing over his expecteds. And realistically, I feel like this is something we're lacking from our midfield. I feel like whoever we go for, whether it's 1 or 2, they either need to be a full mould of box-to-box, a ball carrier with defensive actions in there, or we need someone like Hojbjerg and then a young, creative midfielder who can realistically offer us something more going forward, give us that extra little spice of flair up front, because we do feel like we were lacking after last night. And obviously Harvey Barnes not really failing to impress. And then the other link that is being pushed towards us is Bilal El Khannouss, 22 years old, former Leicester player. And I'm a big fan of this guy. I thought he was great at Leicester. I thought he was a real starlet of the Championship. He really flattered in the way he'd play, very attacking. He's, as you can see from his heat map last season, all over the pitch. Realistically, a very exciting young talent. And I feel that somebody like this could be an ideal signing. Only 22 years old. 4 goals last season. Again, outperforming his XG. Realistically, 1.7 shots per game. It's not bad. His big chances missed and his goal conversion rate, obviously, we'd like to see more. But this is, again, something that a young progressive talent like we're seeing with Sean Sturr, Bamba, players that we're bringing in, Bazamana Toure, who I thought was fantastic yesterday, I have to be honest. These types of players going forward can offer us something to build for the future. And I feel like Ross Wilson, I have to give him credit because it was a big unknown, but I do feel encouraged by the transfers that have come through the door. I feel encouraged by the fact that I'm hearing the manager come out and say this is a collaborative, transparent transfer window where they're all working together. It's exactly what I want. Or Newcastle pulling in one direction. But realistically, I think we're all aware of certain issues within the team that need to be addressed. Jacob Murphy, after seeing this last night, I have to say, get a replacement. I think a right wing is a priority position. I think a centre midfielder is a priority position. And I think, as we all know, now either Dan Burn will come back in fantastic form after being away with England, Fabian Schär will come back to full fitness, and Newcastle will have a rotating 4 centre-backs. Otherwise, I feel we need to add either some experience into this mix, an established player, or we need to be looking at players like Henry Johnson, who came on last night, to really kick on. And that's not to put huge pressure on a player so young, but we need to have somebody that can come in as a versatile makeshift to swap and rotate. Because while Sven Botman looked slightly better than he did in the previous game, I still feel he's not quite back to his best. He still needs to get some more minutes into his legs. But the injuries worry me with our centre-backs, with Sven Botman, Fabian Schär and Dan Burn all being relatively injury-prone, and they take their knocks. And Malik Chow being really the only mainstay, the staple of this defence. And once again, the fullbacks. The fullbacks is definitely a key spot where we need to bring someone in. I thought Leo Shahar last night had a really good first half. I thought he put in some great work rate. I was pleased he was getting stuck into tackles and not shying away. And I genuinely see the confidence of some of these young players growing at the thought and the opportunity that they're going to get into this team. They're going to get minutes. They're going to be used. And they're going to give something back for what they're putting in. And I think that is the big takeaway from all of this, is that Matias Yisler is bonding this team through allowing players to play with expression, to play with freedom, and to work their way and earn their way into this system. Like I say, it's exciting times. Personally, I think it's great. The media side of things makes me laugh. They can't decide whether they want to be on Yisler's side or against him. But let me know in the comments what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, hype, subscribe, get involved, and I'll see you guys in the next one.